Hello everybody, it's Marty McConnell, the Off-Grid Gecko, and today we're going to be amending soil. I am sick and tired of my plants not growing right because I'm not providing them with anything better than the clay that's been provided to me. So I'm amending the soil, and I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit. I'm doing a little bit of new stuff, a little bit of old-fashioned stuff. It's kind of a hodgepodge back and forth. But my basic recipe is, number one, I've been growing stuff here for 2 years now. The plants always come out small, whether that's a matter of my gardening or the soil. You form your own opinion on that. But I want to give all my plants a better chance to thrive. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what I'm working with, what I'm doing. If you've got comments, suggestions for little stuff that I could do better, you know, little investment here or there, that's fine. I don't want to completely redo my entire operation. I don't have a lot of money to spend on excessive monetary things, but I've got what I have and I'm doing what I do, and I'd like to hear your thoughts back on it if you know a thing or two about this. So what I'm basically doing is I'm taking this soil, which is barely able to be called soil at this point, but over the last couple years I've mixed back in a lot of organic material into the soil, and as a result it's sort of loosened up a little bit from the clumpy clay mess that it was when I started, but it's still not quite right, and it's taking a really long time to do it that way. So what I've done is basically turn these over. Instead of doing rows this year, I am doing these little plots. Each one's about 6 feet by 9 feet. And I don't know, it just seems like a better method for keeping everything separated and growing reasons. And easier to manage, easier to walk, that kind of thing. But I basically got all these little pods set up, and then each pod is going to be amended as it goes. So I start off with a pod, and then, or a 6 foot by 9 foot like little planter section, and turn over all the soil with a shovel, because I have a tiller now, but it's not working yet, so still need to work on that project. And then once it's turned over, I've been adding one bag to each pile of this. And this is basically potting soil. It's the cheapest potting soil I could find. Since I'm using it as a soil amendment rather than putting things actually in pots, figure I can get away with a little bit of lower grade material. And I'm also adding a little bit of fertilizer. So this is like a balanced broad spectrum fertilizer for the most part, and using ammonium sulfate for the garlics that I've got here. Those are already in the ground and they're done. And then I'm also adding sand, which I get from down there in the bottom of the hill. So this is my sand bucket, and like I said, I basically went down to the creek down there and got this off the bank. So every time it rains real heavy, this area floods, and this is the material that basically washes out and it gets left behind in the floodplain, and there's all kinds of stuff down there growing out of it during the summertime. So it's real loose, consolidated. It is mostly sand, but there's also a lot of organic material in here too. I'm hoping that will all, as a whole together, will help the garden grow. I've also got some roots, and these little onions, these wild garlics, they grow rampant down there everywhere. So there's a bunch of these in here. Probably have a small infestation of those up here pretty soon. That's it. That's the sand. So take some of this and just sprinkle it on here. As you can see, I'm just basically giving it dusting, just enough that it can get in there. When I mix it in, it'll break up those clumps of clay. And so I'm going to need 2 more buckets full for this one, and then we'll get on to the rest of them. Now we're just going to rake it all in.
There you have it. Nice tilly soil. All that clay is broken up a little bit, and so this one here is already done. It's got garlic in it, and it's wet, and still I can pick it up, and it's nice and just kind of airy, soft. So that's the plan with this. I obviously need a lot more sand, and another advantage of doing these in little plots like this is I can kind of experiment one way or another. So I'm using different fertilizers, as I said, on this versus on the garlic. I've got some leafy fertilizer in these two over here that I'm going to use for like my red sorrel and some of the weedier stuff that grows up here. So I'm going to be putting wild herbs in my garden this year instead of having to go out and forage for them. It's nice to just have them here, and that's sort of like one of the origins of having a garden, at least in this country. From the beginning of time when settlers started coming over here from Europe, was you would garden what you found, you know, just bring it back to the house, put it out somewhere. It's kind of how agriculture probably sort of started to ramp up too. But as far as experimentation, I'm going to do at least one plot here where I'm going to do like half clay and half of this dirty sand by itself and just see how that does. Like maybe just having the sand will be a good soil amendment. There's another person that I talk to frequently up here that that's what they did for their garden, and it seemed to work out for them. So you never know. Maybe I don't need all the extra amendments. Maybe it's just good enough to have the sand and the clay. But trying to experiment around, find something that works rather than devoting everything entirely to one cause and one purpose. I definitely like this layout better. There's more room to walk, and I can get everything of a certain variety in one little planter, and you know, that's just kind of nice. I've got like 250 garlics here in these two, between these two plots. And they're small, manageable chunks also. Instead of having to walk up and down a row, the drainage and the water across one, because they're each kind of level, like that helps. So I'm going to have eventually a tiered effect here where these are lower, medium, and then the high ones up there at the top, but each of them should get more or less an equal amount of rain. I like it. I'm going to do it, and we'll see how it turns out. So stay tuned for that. Until next time, this is Off Grid Gecko signing off. Y'all stay safe out there.